I want to maybe highlight some binaries that I heard come up. And I know early in the book, you talk about the sacred secular
Yeah,
binary,
good.
that coffee shop conversation about community organizers build power and theologians do theology.
Mhm.
And you're kind of questioning, well, is that too simple an understanding of how we assign roles to community organizers and theologians? So maybe and I know this is a big part, a kind of a conceptual engine throughout the entire work, is
Mhm.
your engagement with social pragmatism as a method and as a philosophical framework. But let's make it concrete. How does social pragmatism help you address these binaries?
Yeah, this is a great question. I mean, and it's partly why I set out after the preface, the sort of method, what I mean by the radical social gospel, because the social pragmatism, the way I go about pursuing these questions, is grounded in an inductive methodology that is at the heart of the founding of the field of social ethics, and also one line, one stream of social gospelers who were predominantly Christian socialists. And so there's a radical going to the root of this call of social gospel and social ethics to transform the structures of society in the directions of social justice, right? We begin to develop a language, or these figures who helped found the field developed a language around social sin, social injustices, social justice, that the fact that there is something called society and various individuals have rights and roles and claims within this, and think about the power at a structural and societal level, not merely at a moral and individual level. And the founders of the field of social ethics began really by throwing their students into the middle of social movements, and by asking them, at least for me, this is one way to talk about it, is that they asked them to listen first. Harry Ward, one of the core figures of this movement, had 3 steps that he always asked his students. The method was pretty simple. What are the facts? What do they mean? And what should be done? The disposition is one of listening, of attending to the realities that are already happening in the context that you're situated in first, rather than bringing things in and presuming, right? And so the social pragmatism after this is also dawns a sort of attending to the realities that already exist now, rather than bringing in larger, grander questions about reality and trying to fit that to the what it is we see in the people that we're working with. And so one way is to think about this is the contrast. And what's I mean, this is one of the thinkers writes about this, is it says sometimes we get caught in applying a model of reality rather than attending to the reality of our model, what is in front of us right here. And so we often get caught in the presuppositions that we're supposed to bring to the field, as opposed to listening, attending to people. So part of the social pragmatism is a social ethical disposition about how it is we go about our work and pursuing our questions. That philosophically, that means a couple of things, especially for those who are in the tradition of social pragmatism, which is broadly, one crude way to think about it is that ideas are tools that help us solve specific problems in the world. So this is a very, John Deweyan way of thinking about it, and Jeff Stoudian way of thinking about it. For those who are familiar with Princeton, Jeff Stoud's a long religion professor there who's recently retired, who is a wonderful thinker in this field, and a teacher of mine. Even though I didn't go to Princeton, he was generous enough to let me to attend a couple of his seminars over the years that I did my graduate work there. And I know you've been in conversation with him a lot too. So this is partly what I say.
Deeply formative for my own outlooks here. So we have a converging shared interest and dialogue over the social pragmatism of Princeton and beyond. Please
Exactly.
continue.
And it's it's the generosity of the relationships, right? That's partly what I mean here. It's less of name dropping and more of like it's an intellectual community that you find yourself with. And so you think about ideas as tools. You're less interested in one way of thinking about this is in other frameworks, there's the truth of the meta narrative, the capital T truth, and I'm less interested in pursuing questions of capital T truth throughout this, and more of using and providing a conceptual framework that fits the reality that people live in, how things feel right for them. I'm interested in getting things right in this way, rather than thinking about whether I have established the capital T truth in that. And so this makes the book, the questions that it pursue, less sort of quote unquote theological and, what's the true doctrine of God here, and instead, how are people living out their Christian lives, and what can we say about that? What's the significance of that? And significance then these are always sort of ethical questions that turn back to each other, right? It's significance to whom? Who attributes the significance, right? And all sorts of these things. So social pragmatism provides a methodology for me to think about how it is that I am disposed and oriented to these conversations. So the book itself draws from a lot of my organizing experience, and so I try and lift it up and analyze it, and even kind of fold back on myself a little bit to say there are points when I got this wrong, and this is what I've learned from organizers, and they corrected me in this way. So I try to hold myself accountable to the community that I'm writing with and to, and it provides me a sense where ideas are tools that help me solve problems in the world, which then provides a deep commitment to democracy, and to thinking about democracy not merely as a polity, but as an ethical way of life, because I'm interested in solving social problems. And I'm interested then in voice and agency of all, and that kind of pervades the whole thing.